started again.
Okay, I hope I didn't miss too much there, but I was just saying that if you have trouble with the voting, please contact our Hugo-help at glasgow2024.org. We got a great team that will help you with that. Let's see, kind of lost track there for a second. We have 20 categories, I think, with 6 finalists each. One big job was contacting all those finalists and getting the information about that. During the nomination process, we had a group of researchers who each individually looked at different categories like we were talking about with eligibility a minute ago, look to make sure that people were eligible for the awards they were nominated for. In terms of whether something was published last year, it was the right number of words, etc. And that's one of the teams that's helped us. We have, wow, there's so many people. It's overwhelming. Let's see, we also do a lot of things within our team. I mean, obviously we have to order the awards, and when the people are chosen by the voters, we'll have plaques that we will order. We have, of course, we have the ceremony, and we have a lot of folks who deal with the event side of things and with our finalists. Once we've contacted the finalists, we've turned them over to a team over in that area that is working closely with the finalists. And also we have folks who are putting together the ceremony. And then, of course, at the end, we're going to produce analysis. Of course, we have to tally the votes first, and we have software that does that. And then we'll, yeah. Have I got everything? I feel like
I mean, the scope of it.
Site selection.
We'll get to site selection, Esther. Just you sit
It was the site selection team.
Yeah.
Actually, you bring up a good point. I wanted to mention that too. Like Cassidy is part of our team, and they focus on the Hugo side of things. I mean, that's their role. But both Nicholas and I, we deal with the WSFS side of things broadly. So one of the other tasks that we do is to work closely with the site selection team that chooses the convention location 2 years from now, and also the business meeting. And the business meeting is important for you to know about as well, because I know a lot of people have a lot of ideas that are out there about the Hugo Awards and how conventions should be run. And you can submit those proposals to the business meeting in advance of the convention. And we're going to have some town halls on site selection.
Spoilers.
Yeah, site selection and on the business meeting coming up.
Yeah, no, we absolutely will.
And yes, you can learn more.
So I think one of the things that you've listed so many people that are involved at all the different levels, and I think that probably gets a kind of idea kind of who feeds into and has various different touch points on such a large part. I'd like to clarify one thing though. Who are the people who make the decisions about the Hugos?
Well, yes, that's a good point. Like I was saying at the very beginning, and I think it got lost in all that stuff that I talked about. But yes, the Hugo subcommittee is delegated by the convention committee to be the decision makers on the Hugo Awards. And that it would be myself and Nicholas and Cassidy. And we are those folks that are going to make those decisions.
Thank you. No, I think that's really important, because it kind of shows that there are so many people who are outside involved, but when the buck stops, it's going to stop with you guys, which is great, because that takes the weight off my shoulders, at least, in relation to so many things. So tons of facilitation happens, and it goes all over there. So I want to just, as you said, there were lots of people involved. I'm going to throw something, because Nicholas has had to do work on this before about eligibility checking and those checkers you mentioned earlier. Nicholas, can you pick that up for us?
Surely. So first of all, it is the team that makes the subcommittee that makes the decisions on eligibility. But we have a group of researchers who have checked the eligibility of the things that are nominated as they come in. And we started this process quite early. We started, in fact, in February. We looked in each of the 20 categories at the 12 top nominees as voting stood at that stage. And in some cases, that changed quite a lot between then and the end of voting, and in some cases it didn't. And our eligibility researchers checked each of those nominees. We had separate teams doing Chinese language and English language research. We had one nominee in Korean, which I mistakenly thought was in Chinese, but I have learned my lesson. I should say, and I haven't yet said this in public, we received one nomination in the Best Novel category for Northanger Abbey by Jane Austen. Northanger Abbey, I'm sorry to say, is not eligible for the 2024 Hugos because it was first published in 1818 and the first publication in America was in 1833. And both of those dates are substantially before the 2023 deadline, which affected us. So, as I say, it received only the one vote, but even if it had received hundreds, it still would not have been eligible. I'm sorry, Jane Austen fans, and I'm sorry to Jane Austen, although she doesn't really care anymore. A lot of our researchers, of course, were people who are active in fandom and might actually conceivably have been eligible themselves for particular categories. And in the end, I did the research on the best fanzine category because most of our researchers were involved with that. But essentially, nobody did research on any category where they themselves or something that they had created would be potentially eligible, because obviously you can't have that conflict of interest. And any recommendations that they made, they didn't make decisions, they made recommendations, and we looked at all of those very carefully.
Can I just clarify that yourselves were you recused yourselves of any eligibility?
Yeah. The rules are very clear that the members of the Hugo subcommittee are then not eligible for Hugos, and that is the three of us visible on this call: myself, Catherine, and Cassidy. It also includes Laura Martins, who is also a member of the committee in an executive assistant capacity, and she's hi Laura, I see her in the audience. Also, Kat Jones had been Hugo administrator and was initially ineligible, and we decided that she should stay ineligible, that it was not right that somebody should kind of be ineligible then pop back in again. In the end, none of us actually got any votes, so thank you.
I mean, a little bit like Austin, it makes it a little clearer, although you are quite a prolific writer reviewer yourself on there.
It has happened that the chair of a Worldcon actually won a Hugo at that Worldcon, so it's important that there should be this separation between the two.
Yeah, no, absolutely. No, thank you. That's really helpful, and it really helps me, who is a WSFS novice, get into my head all the various stages and where they cross over. So it's very exciting, the next set of information that's going to come out, and I'm going to have great joy giving that to Cassidy to tell to everybody. So Cassidy, do you want to let everyone know?
Yeah, I think it's the thing that lots of people who nominated are most excited to hear, is that we are opening voting today. So yay! You're going to be able to vote online on the e-ballot or using a paper ballot. Those will both be, how to access them will be on the website soon after this town hall. We are also providing a Chinese language ballot because of the number of Chinese finalists who made it this year. We will make sure that they have access and the ability to read the ballot themselves. So yeah.
That's wonderful. Can I just check, how do votes happen? You've said we can do them on the ballot. Is the voting process the same as the nominating? Is it the same look, feel?
So it will be slightly different because on the nominating ballot, obviously you're listing who you would like to see on the final ballot. In this case, you're going to be ranking the people who you want to vote for, and you will rank them, who you would like to have one preference to, who you would want to have a second preference to. There's also the option for no award, though it's important to know if you select no reward, that means that you're saying nobody should win it. So if you don't want to give if you just don't want to vote for somebody, you don't know it, you haven't read the work, you can always just leave it blank.
So you don't have to vote in every category.
Nope, you don't. You can vote in, obviously we'd like it if you could vote in every category, you know, support the artists and the authors and all of that, read their works. But you don't have to. So
No.
if you're not familiar, that's fine.
No, and I do know that I believe one of our guests of honor has a completion policy on categories for reading and or watching everything. So I know that some people are very kind of involved in that. And so I think that somebody I also know decided to read all of the works the other year and started with best series, and the best series that they picked was Robert Jordan's Wheel of Time. And I don't think they finished the full ballot in time. So it's worth, making your choices. What is it if we're voting with paper ballot? Can you tell me how that works?
If you're voting with the paper ballot, you would obviously print out the section that is the ballot portion. It starts with a page that has you list your name, address, a couple of other items, and has a signature on it. And then the rest of the ballot, which has the finalists on it. And it has a PO box number on there, and you just have to make sure to get it into us. We do have to receive that before the deadline though. So, just because you put it in the postal box on July 18th, doesn't mean it's going to make it to that post office box by July 20th.
No teleporting ballots. No knows what will happen, what could change in that mix. Absolutely.
Yep.
So the other thing is, if anybody's got any problems with their ballot, I think Catherine noted this earlier, but I think it's probably worth reiterating. What are the steps if anybody's having any problems?
Yeah, so if you have an issue with the e-ballot, the paper ballot, any of that, you just send an email to hugo-help@glasgow2024.org and they'll help you. And if it's anything that they can't, they're not familiar with, or they don't have line of sight to it, like for example, they cannot see if you have voted. So if your question is, hey, I'm not sure that my ballot's submitted appropriately, they'll just forward that on to one of us on the subcommittee, and we just take a look and go and say, yep, we see it in there for you.
Perfect.
So
well, that's really good, and that's really clear as well about how the confidentiality of the vote is maintained the entire time.
Yep.
So that's I think that should reassure a lot of people as to who sees what at what point.
Yep.
Okay, so you get to tell us how it opened. Catherine, can you tell us when we close?
Yes, I can tell you. You have 3 months to vote here, and it will be closing on July 20 at the hour of 2017, which is quite significant in a geeky way, because that is the 55 years to the minute of the Apollo 11 moon landing. It's pretty cool.
Okay, so we launch tonight and we land on the anniversary of the first landing on the moon. So I think that feels quite apt, given that our fan village in Glasgow is going to be Landing Zone Glasgow. It kind of ties everything in together. So well, obviously time zones will come into play, but I mean, I'm saying for anybody who is watching at home, I'm sitting in a stunningly sunny Glasgow day. Skies are bright blue and it's 7:30 in the evening. But Catherine, you're in Hawaii. What time is it for you there?
Yeah, it's 11 hours different here. It's a lot earlier in my day right now.
Thank you for joining us so early on a Saturday morning.
Yeah, I think it's just about 8:30 now. Yeah, it's and so when voting closes, it'll be quite early. I have to make sure I'll get my votes in there.
So for everybody, the world is round and the voting will close in British summertime. So please make sure you observe time zones. And as Cassidy said, if you're sending in postal votes, please make sure you observe the time for those to arrive. So Nicholas, I'm going to ask you, we had some questions during earlier stages about what the nomination software was. Can you talk us through what the software is going to be for voting, please?
Sure. We're developing new software. Sorry, that's the wrong tense. We have developed new software for the voting. This has been done by Chris Rose, a good friend of the conventions, a good friend of Fandom based in Seattle. And he's called the new software Nom Nom. It was developed at first for the accepting nominations. So we're using that for both the input of the Hugo ballots and for the counting to work out the results. For nominations, again, Chris supplied the input interface, the Nom Nom interface. But for counting, we used the same software that was first developed by Emily Arrow for the Helsinki Worldcon in 2017, and later developed by David Matthewman and used in years when I was a Hugo administrator, also in 2019, not in 2020, but also in 2021 and in 2022. That's called CANSA, and it's on its last legs, unfortunately. It was a beautiful thing to operate, but it depends on certain things that are now out of date. So Chris is developing a new version of that for counting of nominations next year. It did its job this year, and again, we'll be transparently publishing the outputs from it come the Hugo ceremony.
Hey, that's great. That's really reassuring. And I think if people are interested, Chris has talked about the nomination software before on File 770 and is always happy, I think, to geek out about all software related queries and questions. Thanks, Chris. So that's in there. So we have it opening, we have it closing, we know how it's going to be voted on. Cassidy, why don't you talk us through what the Hugo Packet is? Not everybody will know about that.
Yeah, so I think Catherine alluded to it when she was going over all the people who help with us, as we have a team who is reaching out to all the various finalists and whoever they direct us to get the materials for the packet, which is what items that can demonstrate what the finalist is being nominated for, which obviously that's different for different categories. And different publishers may give us different rights. So for each category, there may be different items. So, you know, who knows what we'll get? We're still collecting all of that. We're getting a lot of material though right now. So we're hopeful that maybe the first part of May, but obviously that's a lot of, dependent on getting materials. But in the meantime, as voting opens and all of that, support the artists, support the authors, buy the books, go to your local library and check the books out, because even that supports writers and all of that. So, make sure to go do that.
And it's not just books, is it? So it's games, game designers, graphic novelists, short fiction, log into streaming services, get some time to get to the cinema and lobby for another show of, whatever we want to watch. It's such a varied and large packet that I think that we are all gonna sort of really enjoy it when it arrives, but also that we get to kind of go out there and check it. And fanzines are already online, the short stories are there. So
a lot of fan casts. You can go ahead and start downloading and listening to them on your favorite podcast app,
So basically,
one of the reasons that I'm smiling as well is that I've got house guests and they're actually watching one of the nominated Doctor Who episodes downstairs at the moment. And there was actually a moment about 10 minutes ago where I switched the episode over on my phone because I could hear the previous one ending. And I heard them kind of go, ooh, this is like kind of, psychic magic. But yes, they're actually watching The Giggle, which was a Doctor Who nominated episode downstairs. They seem to be enjoying it. They haven't come raging upstairs. So yeah. But play the games.
Just if I may say, somebody who's in the chat, I won't say who, has just contacted me to say that they're going to get Jane Austen was robbed t-shirts made. And be my guest. Be my guest.
That
doesn't sound very sensible. Sounds a very prideful thing to be doing.
Don't be prejudiced about it, Esther.
You're right. Yeah.
So just to also, to note that there's lots where we can start to go out and buy the Hugo Packet, start reading, start being aware that creators will be at Worldcon, potentially finalists. So if you brought them with you to be signed, that might be an option as well. It's always a great thing to see. I just want to reiterate, Juan San Miguel, you asked a question which was what was the deadline I will be submitting as the doors close. So just to reiterate, the voting closes at 2017 BST on the 20th of July. And that's this year, just in case you weren't sure. So this year it will close at 8:17 in the evening on the 20th of July. Okay, so I hope that has answered your question as well. So we have the packet, we have the voting, we have when it closes. And I've just mentioned that our finalists are going to be coming, hopefully, some of them to Glasgow and everything else. Esther, can you talk us through the support that finalists should look to or get from Glasgow?
Yeah, so in the past, there's been, again, finalists have often felt that they haven't been very well served and have often really sort of struggled with just being nominated. It's very overwhelming. And obviously it's incredibly exciting as well, but it can be a bit of a sort of very sudden for some people, and obviously it can actually be very career defining for other people. And one of the things that we also have committed to doing is to supporting the finalists as much as we possibly can. So we're also doing a number of town halls for them. We've done one already, which was a sort of congratulations, oh my goodness, isn't this amazing, you're a finalist, but what do you actually do to promote yourself? How do you tell the world, and how do you deal with that sometimes very overwhelming feeling? So we're going to be holding a number of these town halls. We're going to be talking them through what the Hugo ceremony will be like. Obviously there'll be rehearsals at the event as well. But we're also making sure that, again, there's a dedicated team that are looking after the finalists. So any queries can go to them. And again, I know they're fielding lots and lots of queries, and it is really sort of no question too small, because it's a stressful event. I've actually been a finalist myself, and I know just how much pressure you put yourself under, as well as all of the other things, everything from, I've got to get my hair right. My dress broke. My dress actually broke whilst I was, I fortunately wasn't a winner, but all these tiny things. But also just making sure that their questions are answered, that they feel reassured, that things are kind of going well for them. And that is, again, a dedicated team in and of itself who are kind of looking after people. And it's really, really important to us that we actually help people celebrate this. But we've also brought on a PR advisor who's also already given a talk to them and gave a really, really good presentation, and who's sort of talked through this. And we also have had previous winners. We brought on Mary Robinette Cowell, who's been advising us both for the ceremony itself and for the finalists. And I think, one of the things that she said that we all feel is that in some ways, obviously winning is huge. It's a huge, big deal. But just being a finalist is also amazing, and the thing that she said, and I think I'll really take this with me, because it was one of these sort of, oh my goodness, a previous chair has said something like, no, this is a real learning moment, is that she said, somebody likes your work. Somebody liked you enough to make you a finalist. And in fact, it wasn't just one person. It was more than one person. It was lots of someone's. And that's a real important thing to really value. And I think that's the kind of kind of caring ethos that we want to take forwards, in that we want to remember that this is a celebration. You know, it's been a very rough year, it's been very difficult, but this is a celebration of science fiction, of fantasy, and in all its permutations as well. Like, I'm so excited that there's best game and interactive work. You know, unfortunately I have a real world job as well, because we are all volunteers, and my real world job is I'm a professor of games, and you know, so obviously this new Hugo is incredibly exciting to me. But they're all exciting. They're all, again, there is somebody out there who is absolutely passionate about whichever category it is, to the extent of, you know, to the detriment of all of the others. And then there are, you know, obviously people who are just really excited to be reading these works and learning about them. So, you know, I'd sort of echo what everybody else says. Go and start looking at what's been nominated as a finalist, because there's some amazing stuff out there. I mean, when everything was announced, you know, I felt I was very surprised actually that I'd actually read quite a lot of best novel, because usually I don't, and usually I'm like, you know, why didn't so should have got on. But it was just incredible to just see these names come up and think, oh my goodness, this is a year of books that I've loved, and I'm going to be, how am I going to choose, you know? And I think that's the joy of voting as well, you know, that you do get to, you get to define who wins, and that is unique. And that's one of the reasons that it's so important that we do all these things, because that's very different from a lot of other awards that are decided by panels of judges. You know, this is a science fiction award and a fantasy award for science fiction and fantasy fans. It's for us, you know, and that's something we need to keep hold of, you know.
I think as well as it's remembering creators are such a huge part of our community.
Yeah.
And that it is a really embedded award. It belongs within the WorldCon and the people in the community that celebrate with everyone. I mean, it's been quite transformative for me at points to be actually twice Mary Robinette, once in London in 2014, and then in Dublin, handed me her Hugo, and I was like, ha! Ugh! So that was an interesting experience.
And I think there's a sort of good point there as well that goes back to what we were talking about the subcommittee, and the reason that the subcommittee are separate is because there are members of our team who've been nominated. And so it's incredibly important that the subcommittee deals with it and nobody else does, because otherwise, you know, there's a real issue there. And actually, you know, we are all fans and we do all create, and I'm not going to name them in this conversation because I don't think that's appropriate, but it is really important that we give them the opportunity to be finalists as well, because they are there for merit, and keeping that separation and being very transparent about that is really, really important. You know,
I think,
you know, you get it because you are, and it should never be that.
I think there's another part that I wanted to bring out here, because obviously we're going to go on and we're going to have a quick conversation as well about the ceremony and aspects, but the ceremony is not the only place where people will see these finalists. These finalists are going to be in our program, and be with people in conversation about their work, about their joy, about their passion throughout. How does that happen, Esther?
Yeah, so we've already spoken to as many of the finalists as we possibly can about this, and we've also sent an email, and again, you know, as many contacts as we can. Obviously we have the list of finalists, but there is an issue here, and the issue is GDPR. So GDPR does not allow us to reach out to people to use information they haven't already voluntarily given us. So if you are a finalist and you haven't contacted our program team, you need to contact them. And it's program@glasgow2024.org. We are in the stages of putting the program together at the moment. We do try and get as many finalists as we possibly can onto the program. Again, we've had nearly 1,500 people who want to be on program. We can't include absolutely everybody, but where possible, we do try to put finalists into that space, even if it's only for one item. So again, if you're a finalist and if you're watching, then please reach out and speak to the program team and fill in their surveys. They'll send you all the information of what you need to do and show you where you need to go. But we are actually allocating program right now. It won't be announced for a very, very long time. It's a really long process. But yes, that's the best way to do it. Again, often it happens that there's an assumption that we can contact people, and as I say, unfortunately we can't. We have to obey the data protection,
the rules of GDPR, to which we are all bound. So I think the message goes out is check your email and check your spam filters, get in touch, and if you're not sure, you're a finalist and you haven't heard, reach out, because we'd love to hear from you as well. So I'm just going to remind the audience, if they want to submit questions, please do so through the Q&A. You're all very quietly not asking as much as I thought you might have to ask, but we're okay with that. We will wait. So just before we go on to the ceremony, I'm going to pick up this question from Kimberly that's come in. So to everybody else and for people who are watching later, I'm going to read it out. So Kimberly says, I just want to say I appreciate the transparency. These updates and conversations are very valuable given the distressing issues from 23. Thank you. Also, I may have missed it, and I realise that work continues in building the Hugo Packet. Any idea when it will be released? And finally, on another topic, will there be a Zoom or live stream for the business meeting? So first of all, we're going to go back to the packet. So what Cassidy said is it's still being worked on at the moment. It could take another several weeks, but the aim is hopefully around, I believe it was mid-May, Cassidy, was that was about right? And in the meantime, we have the list, and we do encourage you to go out and buy the works or access them on different streaming services, etc. We will have a town hall on the business meeting, and lots of the information about that will come out at that point. There is generally a recording of it as well, and I'm going to pass to Nicholas. I'm just going to let you know, and I'll reiterate this again at the end, the town hall for the business meeting is currently scheduled for the 15th of June. So additional information will be coming there. Nicholas, do you want to pick up here?
Just, I think the question may have been when the business meeting itself actually happens.
No,
will there be virtual participation? Now, I'm afraid the rules were changed last year to prevent virtual participation. The rules can be changed again, and people are looking at that. Let's say no more than that. We do expect that we will be able to live stream it through the convention's social media channels. But unfortunately, since participation isn't an option, we will not be doing that through Zoom. We'll be doing it probably through, through YouTube or through whatever else we happen to have available.
Brilliant. And we have an online platform. We have online memberships. So if you won't physically be able to join us, please do bring in your online membership, and you'll be able to access things that way. But as I say, more information about the business meeting will come out, and it will come out in our Zoom town hall. So I'm going to come back to you, Nicholas, and if any additional questions come in as well on this, we very handily have not a plant in the audience, I swear, but we very handily have Vincent Doherty, who is our head of events, also there. So Nicholas, tell us about the Hugo ceremony.
Do you know what, Meg? I think I'm going to punt that to Vince, if you can bring him in directly.
I'll see if I can bring him in. My technology, everybody, has not been going well today, so we're just
Vince, I hope you're decent.
I'm going to promote you to panelist, Vince, but I will demote you afterwards. But come on board with us.
Whilst Meg is doing that, I will just say that our online platform, Hopin, actually it's called Ring Central now, is the platform that we'll be using. So Nicholas wasn't quite right there where we were saying that we would probably be streaming it to YouTube. It will go through the online platform that we're using, and we will look at other options. But at the moment, that's the plan. So yeah, just wanted to.
Vince, you should be able to turn on your camera. There we go.
Hi everyone, happy to be here, if only briefly. Yeah, so just a quick update. So the Hugo ceremony will be, as with most years, most World Cons will be held on the Sunday of the convention. So that's August the 11th. It'll be in the evening, and typically it will run for a couple of hours. It'll be in the Armadillo, the auditorium of the Armadillo, which is a famous landmark now in Glasgow, as well as, shall we say, features heavily in the promotions of the convention. Some of it more serious, some of it less serious. And we expect, you know, the Hugos pretty much gets a very good attendance. There's 3,000 seats, and we expect that'll be pretty full. On the day, as people have already mentioned, you know, not only will there be rehearsals for, you know, all the participants, the finalists, the presenters, there'll also be, you know, we'll make sure that the finalists are well taken care of. There'll be a bit of a reception beforehand to make sure they get fed and watered and are all in the right place at the right time. The ceremony typically runs a couple of hours. This year, again, in the spirit of, you know, just keeping the focus on the Hugos, the ceremony will basically just focus on the 20 categories. So the 18 Hugos and the 2 other categories which are on the ballot. You know, very much in the spirit of, you know, keeping things focused on the Hugos and as a celebration of all of the finalists. That's really all I wanted to say. Any points you want me to raise?
So I was going to kind of ask, the Hugo ceremony will be live streamed. So there's 3,000 seats in the Armadillo, but there will be places on campus where you can watch it as well that aren't the Armadillo. Is that correct?
That's the plan, yes.
Yep.
And it will be live streamed as well, and recorded, of course. And
so
yeah, all of the above.
all of the above.
Yeah. The other thing I would say is, of course, the Hugo Trophy itself will have the base design. In fact, Nicholas could probably say more about that in terms of this year's design, but that will be revealed at the opening ceremony, which will be on the Thursday before, and then the actual physical trophies, of course, will be given to the winners on the night.
Yes, and I believe, as well as the rehearsals, there's clear instructions on how to hold your trophy safely and successfully. So
yes. Well, you can actually see a couple of copy Hugos behind me. The thing I will say is, yes, it's important to hold them safely because they're very, very heavy. The rocket is the standard element each year, and that's just solid metal. And then the base typically has to be solid and sturdy enough to support the rocket. So typically these things are, you know, definitely not things you want to drop on your foot. Yeah.
No, that's wonderful. Well, thank you so much, Vince, and thanks for jumping up and joining us. And I'm going to see if I can
Pleasure.
Back down, or even if you can just video by yourself, which is what has happened. So that's great. That's really handily. Vince brought up the award trophies themselves. So actually, Nicholas, why don't we just have a little bit of a chat about who our designers are this year?
Well, basically, so there have been 2 ways of backstep again. Every year, the Hugo Awards are the rockets, the trophies, which are specified in the Constitution, and there's a particular factory that has been making them for years, owned previously by an actual Hugo winner for Peter Weston, who sadly is no longer with us. So the rockets themselves are standardized, but every Worldcon makes its own base for the rockets, and we have commissioned 2 artists who have been very closely associated with the Glasgow Worldcon and with our visual design from the very beginning, Ian Clark and Sarah Felix. And Sarah has actually designed Hugo bases before, and it's Ian's first rodeo, but Ian's done an awful lot else for us, indeed, including I think your background there, Meg, that you're sitting in front of.
No, this is a very convenient Sarah moment.
Don't turn away, Meg, we can't hear you.
So this is a very convenient Sarah moment with her iconic purple sky and the logo. And Sarah's designing the Lodestar Award this year, but of course, this is some of the iconic Ian art. that has graced our promotion material. So, and can I just also check? Basically, it's only so far. It's only Wispas or yourselves as the Hugo Committee and the chair who know the design. So we as Concom don't. We have that excitement to come as well.
We hope it will come as a pleasant surprise early in proceedings. Sometimes people have held competitions for people to design the awards. I have personally always felt it's better to simply approach designers who we're already comfortable with, and who are perhaps attuned to the community, and make sure that we get something that really fits our needs. So I think we've got something very good this time.
Wonderful. I can't wait to see it. And for any of you who may have also seen on our socials, we did have a little fun on April Fool's Day, and Sarah designed us a wonderful tartan rocket with a fabulous Hugo base, and that will be on display in our exhibits hall. So if you're excited to see it, then you can see it there as well. But we are really looking forward to Ian's design for the Hugo itself and for the papers for the Lodestar. So Martin,
and we're also hoping to do, this has been incredibly popular in the past, we're also hoping that we're going to get a stunt Hugo, so that we would do a couple of sessions where you can come along and hold a Hugo, and it will be a stunt one. But that's always something that people really like doing, because, yeah, as Vince says, not only are they incredibly heavy, but it's actually really cool to hold one and get your photo and sort of, you know, do your little speech and just enjoy the awards. And again, you know, it's often the case after the Hugo Awards that people will come down with their Hugos and you can congratulate them, but it doesn't always happen. And so we wanted to give people an opportunity for that to happen as well. So that's another thing that will be happening at the convention. That's quite a sort of popular thing to do in the exhibits area. So yeah.
I'm probably actually going to ask Vince to turn his camera back on for this, or if somebody else can answer it. But just so people who again are watching later, Martin has asked, will there be a Hugo party for the finalists? Sometimes this has been run external to the convention itself and can cause confusion. Vince, do you want to jump back on and answer any of that, please?
Yes, I mean, there's been a long history of different types of post-Hugo ceremony events, particularly for the finalists, in some cases to allow them to, you know, to decompress. In other cases, there have been quite large events. In this case, we are working with next year's Worldcon, which will be in Seattle, to do a kind of combined post ceremony party, probably also in the convention center. And more details of that will be forthcoming for the finalists, just along with all the other information they're sending them. That will be steered through the finalists support team.
Fantastic, wonderful, thank you. I hope that answers that for you, Martin, as well. So we're coming up to an hour. We've covered most of everything that we wanted to flag to people. We hope that this is really giving everybody as much information as we can. We've said again and again, please do reach out to Hugo Help. Please, we are the faces of the people that you want to talk to. So hopefully you can recognize that we're there. We also have a fabulous social media team who are very happy to take your questions, and when they get them, they go off and check with the experts if they're not sure. So make sure you're aware that really we are making sure that you're getting the most accurate and up-to-date information that we have at any given time. Sometimes information changes, and as you'll know, we have let you know all the way through what those parameters are. So again, we hope that you will keep with us on that. And if you're not sure, just ask. We really are very happy to answer anything that you've got going on. I don't see any other questions from the audience at the moment, but while we're waiting for those, does any of our wonderful panelists have anything that they want to add? Silence is not usual from this group of people.
I mean, I can hear people enjoying the giggle downstairs, which is very gratifying. But I think, just to reiterate, enjoy the Hugos. And that, I think that's one of the things that, yeah, you know, we're working so hard to regain some of the things that were lost. And I think, again, Catherine's description of just how many people work on the team, that is one team of 13 in our convention. It's not even a particularly big team. You know, it's an average team, but it's definitely not a big team. And there's so much work that's going on to try and sort of redress things, but at the same time, I do really feel, you know, I've been reading as hard as I can. You know, I'm kind of busy, it turns out, but I've been reading and watching, and you know, I'm sort of trying to remember that, again, that this is about a celebration, and that's actually what we want to try to bring back, with the added bonus of, you know, being as clear as we possibly can, of making sure that people know what the voting was, what the results were, being very aware of anything that, you know, that may happen. And, you know, again, it's important that we work hard to make it a celebration. So yeah.
So we've had another question from Neil in the audience. So Neil has said, if there are a couple of Hugo Packet items that are taking a while to get approved, will the rest be released on a certain date? So I'm seeing nods from Nicholas, but can you take that verbally as well?
Yeah, I mean, basically, we've given them a deadline. The deadline is not tomorrow, but it's quite soon. And obviously, if people miss the deadline, then they don't get in. Having said that, it's always been the case that we've added to the packet if people are late. But we will, you know, there are technical issues on both ends to get this done. It's filling up quite nicely as it is, but it's not going to be ready to go on May the 1st.
No, but I think that's good to know, that if things are coming, and they'll come at potentially at different stages, but they've been coming in at different stages, and the packet is growing, and then it will come out, and instructions about that packet will come out by email, as well as being kind of on our social medias, directing to you to where to go for that. So we know that the Hugo Voting is going to open, I think, at 8:30. So we're gearing up for that. I mean, vote early is always a good sign, so that we can find out. You know, make sure everything's working smoothly, and has been rigorously tested. But there's always the joy of discovering new things as we go. Okay, so thank you so much to everybody here. I would like to sort of say I sat at the opening ceremony, just after the opening ceremony at EasterCon, having helped to build a video to celebrate the nominated finalists. And I had seen it lots of times as we edited, and it was still the most joyful thing to hear people go, yes, as they saw the thing they'd nominated be there. And you know why? Because not only is it there for them to nominate, they now get to talk about it with all of their friends, because everybody is going to be reading that, playing that, being exposed to things that they may not have encountered before. And I think that's something that's really amazing about the Hugo process and the Hugo Packet. And the fact that we get to share that joy, we get to be together, we don't yuck each other's yum, and we really get to enjoy these creators from our community and celebrate that. So thank you everybody for being here. So next week, we will be running a town hall on site selection. We will have our site selection team. We're going to be joined by Catherine, who is again joining us very early in the morning from Hawaii. We'll also be getting a presentation from the bid chair for LA 2026, which will be the site being voted on for Glasgow. We've got to talk through the process, how it happens, what the dates, what the logics are, and how you vote, as well as finding out a little bit about LA. And then we will be running a business meeting town hall, which will have our business meeting team, and probably again Nicholas, Catherine, for that will be in June, I believe the 15th, I believe the same time slot. So, just book this in for your attending town hall needs. And hopefully everything will also be live streamed, and my technology will not let me down. So as we finish up today, want to say, go read, then start to vote, have lots of joy, follow us on our socials, join our Facebook community group. If you haven't got your membership yet, grab it. If you can't attend in person, we are going to have a brilliant program online. There's so many events coming, so do watch those as well. I think June the musical was announced today, so it's going to be great. And thank you very, very much for joining us. Go and have a wonderful Saturday, whatever you're doing with the rest of your day. Thank you.